It is now 8:30 on, this is Friday, July 14th, 2017, and I'd like to call to order this meeting of the Tennessee Board of Accountancy. Wendy, would you do a roll call vote to confirm that we have a quorum here? And I know that Gabe Roberts is here. He has stepped out of the room for a moment, but I guess we can somehow acknowledge he's here later. But would you do the roll call vote?
Church.
Present.
Trey Watkins.
Here.
Casey Stewart.
Here.
Janet Booker Davis.
Here.
Gay Moon.
Here.
Larry Elmore.
Here.
Kevin Monroe. Gabe Roberts.
Here.
Stephen Eldridge.
Here.
Mr. Chairman, we do have a quorum.
Okay. This meeting date, time, and location have been properly noticed, and copies of the agenda were posted to the Board of Accountancy website on July the 7th, 2017. I'll make a few announcements. I think first I'm going to ask Wendy. We've had some apparent changes in our legal representation, so I'm going to ask Wendy to introduce our new legal representation or summarize those changes for us.
Sure. To my right here is Liz Goldstein, and she remains our board counsel, so she's been with us for the past couple of meetings. Our disciplinary counselor is where we've seen a few changes. So Sarah Page is with us again. Shalina Brown is our new addition. So she has changed spots with Matt Reddish. So we will see her handling some of our cases on the discipline side. So just want to make sure everybody knew who they were and what their roles were.
Look forward to working with you ladies, and welcome. So I'm going to, I guess, ask our new investigator to maybe step to the microphone and tell us a little bit more about her and her skills or experience or whatever. But Sharon Watts, please.
Remembering way back when, that was my maiden name. I'm Juan now, so I didn't change the monogram. That's pretty cool. But anyway, first of all, thank you for the opportunity to serve as an investigator for the Board of Accountancy. I'm actually celebrating my 30th year in the profession this month. Went to work for the Comptroller's office here in Nashville in 1987. Worked in state audit primarily with colleges and universities. From there, rolled into public accounting for, I don't know, about 5 or 6 years. Went into private industry, worked mainly in the manufacturing area, from anywhere from general ledger accountant up to a controller at a couple of companies in East Tennessee. And from there, actually got some teaching. Taught at East Tennessee State for a while, principles of accounting courses. Taught here at Middle Tennessee State in Murfreesboro for a while. Cost accounting courses, managerial accounting from that realm. Did some internal audit work for General Motors at one point. And then rolled back into public accounting, doing some audit and test work, but also getting my feet wet after all those years with some taxes as well. So you can kind of say I've done a little bit of everything, and I'll say thus far I've been able to utilize a lot of that experience from those various, roles in my career in this role, and hope to continue to be able to do that. So thank you.
Thank you. Just as an aside, Sharon's first job, I think, out of school was with my old firm back in Chattanooga. She was only there about a year, but what I had remembered, she was a 4.0 student, but she reminded me yesterday that that was not the case. She had a 3.98 something. She made a B in, what was it, music?
Music theory. So there went the music career.
Anyway, we're glad you're here and know you'll do a good job, so thanks. I'd like to remind all the members, just as you speak today, be sure you speak into the microphone, because this is being recorded. And if I forget, remind me to speak into the microphone. So Everyone has been previously furnished a copy of our agenda for today. I would ask if there are any changes that we need to make to that agenda or any additions. Okay. We forward then. Next item on the agenda is approval of the board minutes of the last meeting. I think everyone has been furnished a copy of those minutes. I would just ask, are there any corrections or changes that anybody thinks we need to make to those minutes? Okay, hearing no corrections, entertain a motion that the minutes be approved as written. So moved. Okay, any discussion of that motion?
But we need to do a roll call vote since Stephen is on the phone.
Okay, good. You want to conduct that roll call vote?
Okay, yes, Karen will do so.
Pamela Church. Aye. Gabe Roberts.
Aye.
Trey Watkins.
Aye.
Casey Stewart.
Aye.
Janet Booker Davis.
Aye.
Gay Moon.
Aye.
Weatherby. Kevin Monroe. Stephen Eldridge.
Aye. The next item on the agenda is the director's report, so Wendy, we'll ask you to give that report.
Thank you. This item has been previously distributed to you. It is also on your iPads. The first item I have on there is just an update on NASBA meetings. I attended the Eastern Regional meeting along with Larry Elmore, Judy Weatherby, and Don Royston at the end of June. We covered several topics at that meeting, and we'll talk a little bit about that later in the agenda. The upcoming NASBA meetings are the annual meeting. It's going to be at the end of October in New York City. So far I have Janet, Judy, and Casey on the list of wanting to attend that meeting. So if anyone else has any interest, please let me know. Can you all still hear me? Okay. The second item is exposure drafts. We talked about this yesterday. The one out there right now for comment is on the use of titles. So we did talk about that yesterday. Those comments will be due at the end of September. The accountancy licensing database feed that we talked about at the May meeting about feeding our discipline over and the certain categories that this board agreed to feed over. This is just an update that I have made a request to the IT team to make that an automatic add to our feed. That is still going, those requirements have been submitted to the vendor, and we are still waiting on what those costs are going to look like in a time frame. So until we get that in automatic, we will be manually giving that information to NASBA to upload to the ALD. And we only have a few every month, so it's not too time consuming to do that. Continuing education on the fields of study. At the last board meeting, we chose to adopt the NASBA's technical classifications as meeting the definition of our technical requirement laid out in Accountancy Rule 0020-05-.03. Subsequently, I met with legal staff to see if we needed a change in a rule or policy related to that decision, and we have determined that we do not. So the decision made is appropriate, and we don't need to do anything else on that. On the next page, I talk about the CPE audit. Audit notices were mailed on April 24th to 530 licensees selected for audit of their 2015-2016 CPE. Of course, all board members were included in that audit as well, and I'm happy to say you all passed, so that's good. As of July 5th, all of the submissions have been reviewed for compliance. So there were only 10 folks that did not respond, and all 520 have been reviewed by staff. And I just have to give a huge shout out to the staff. I mean, this is, last year it was at the end of September before we got through this. So they have really worked hard, worked as a team, improved some efficiencies. now all of these licensees know where they stand, and they know if they need to do something additional. And so I just couldn't be more happy. So wanted to make sure you all knew that. You will see some stats in the director's report as far as how many were compliant versus not compliant. You'll see there that 333 were compliant, completely compliant, 63%. Some additional folks that were compliant were those with, there were 17 who included carryover hours. That included 3% of the population. Some had additional hours that covered any penalty that may have been assessed. So there were 44 of those individuals, and that was 8%. And then there were 7 with a home state exemption, which was 1% of the population. We do have 109 individuals that are not compliant. That's 21%. Those folks have been issued a letter indicating the areas in which they were not compliant. They've been given 180 days to make up the deficiency plus the penalty hours.
Is that percentage in line with prior years?
I'm sorry?
Is that percentage in line with prior years?
I would say it's a little higher. I think we've been
It
around
looks high to me.
Yeah.
That's what I'm asking.
Yeah, and I would say this is consistent from what I'm hearing from other states. We've seen a little bit of an increase in noncompliance. Don't know that there's been any revelations on what's causing that or why there would be more noncompliance. But yeah, I thought that number was a little high too. I think we've been more around 13%. We did remove 10 folks from the audit. These are folks that, because this is a random selection, sometimes we get folks in there that have only been licensed for a year, or I can't remember a couple of the other reasons, but
Maybe they've just reactivated and had their CPE approved.
yeah, they just reactivated and they had already submitted CPE during that reactivation process. So there are a few reasons why we would remove somebody from the audit. And then we had no response from 10 individuals, so we are preparing documents to submit complaints for those individuals who did not respond. The chart below that gives you the penalties assessed, and those numbers are not going to add up because some people had one penalty, some may have had penalties in multiple areas. So there were 81 individuals that did not meet the 80-hour requirement. There were 65 individuals that did not meet the minimum 20 hours and 15, and so on. So it looks like our biggest noncompliance is with the 80-hour requirement and the state ethics requirement. So those are the areas that people miss the most. Questions on that before I move on? Okay. TSCPA activities. I did attend TSCPA's council meeting on June 25th along with their convention and gave a brief update on board activities. I also have met with Brad and Kara to discuss the details of the state-specific ethics program, and that's how we managed to get that agreement worked out that you all looked at yesterday. I am scheduled to attend their board of directors workshop in August. As far as staffing goes, we are fully staffed with Sherry on board now. I've also worked with HR to retain Don on a part-time basis. We are doing this in order for him to help with some of the old cases that still need to go to formal hearing. I believe we have one case that we need a little bit more work done on, and in conversations with HR, this was the best way to handle that and allow Sherry to work on future cases and really focus on those. And Don and his firm are willing to do this. So I think it's a win-win for everybody. So if you have any questions about that, let me know. Then I have future meeting dates. At the last meeting, we failed to take a vote on the additional one that I had put on the agenda. So we now have 2 down there. We have the July 18 meeting and we have the October 18 meeting. You will also notice that I moved these to Monday, Tuesday as a proposal. So I've gotten the indication individually from a few folks that they would prefer to move away from Fridays. So if you have other suggestions, that's fine, but this is what this basically falls on the 4th week of the month. I believe the Monday and Tuesday of the 4th week of the month. So don't let me forget at the end, we need to vote on this, but after those future meeting dates, we have licenses issued for the calendar years 16 and 2017. I was a little concerned that the first quarter was down, but we've recovered in the second quarter, so I'm happy to see that. I also expect it to be a little bit down, given the fact that scores are not being released on the new exam until the middle to end of August. But we're still pretty strong with licensing. And then you'll see the overall population at the end of the report. Are there any questions? I'll entertain those. If not, if we could get a vote on the future meeting dates.
Okay. I guess we need to vote and approve the two new dates, which would be committee day would be on Monday, July the 23rd, 2018. The board meeting would be on July 24th, 2018. And then the October meeting would be Monday. The committee meeting would be on Monday, October 22nd, 2018, and the board meeting would be on Tuesday, October 23rd, 2018. So I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Okay, have a second?
Second.
Way of discussion, I have a question. Is this going to create any kind of issue? I know we get stuff right up the day before the meetings over here by email, and that's the legal report and things that is hard to pull together a few days in advance. Is the fact that it will be on Monday going to create any problems, logistical problems with getting an up-to-date legal report, or because you're going to have the weekend before there that's
I think more with the staff than, yeah.
I mean, I just ask, is that, have we thought about
No,
that?
as long as we have the date ahead of time, we can try to get those to you. Obviously, with our shift in disciplinary counsel, it was a little bit of a transition this time around. But if we know kind of about approximately what time or how long out you need it, we will do everything we can to make sure that that happens. The only hesitation. Oh yeah. So there would be no conflict unless we had some sort of strangeness where another motor V meeting or something overlapped. But we don't think that's the case here. So.
Other discussion?
I've got a question. If our term expires before these dates, do we vote on it, or?
Yes.
Okay.
Further discussion?
I got one question, if you can hear me.
Yes.
What's the rationale for wanting to change from Thursday and Friday to Monday, Tuesday? You know, accountants don't like change.
I don't really know on the Thursday or Friday.
I've just heard from different board members. I know Kevin will have one meeting he misses every year because of a Thursday, Friday overlap. And Judy, do you have?
I think when we discussed it, it's always kind of been that it interferes with travel plans and whatnot with people. If I recall, I live in town, but there are other people that drive in, and then if they have travel plans from there, it just makes it inconvenient, I think, especially if they're trying to get home from here at a decent time and that sort of thing. But those who are traveling may want to speak more to that.
Now, I like the idea of a Monday and Tuesday better because it really gives you the weekend to review all of this stuff. And I agree with the travel issue. A lot of times you want to, if you're going somewhere, you like to leave on Friday, and by the time you get home from this meeting, it's too late to leave.
And I like the weekend to review prior to. I think that's very helpful because most of us are doing other things in the course of the week, and it gets hectic right before we come in. So.
Any further discussion or questions? If not, I guess we need to have a roll call vote on everything today, so let's have a roll call vote.
Pamela Church.
Aye.
Dave Roberts.
Aye.
Trey Watkins.
Aye.
Casey Stewart.
Aye.
Janet Booker Davis.
Aye.
Gay Moon.
Aye.
Larry Elmore.
Aye.
Judy Weatherby.
Aye.
Kevin Monroe.
Aye.
Stephen Eldridge.
Okay, motion approved, and would encourage everybody to get those dates on your calendar so you remember them. Next item on the agenda is the reinstatement request of Teresa Joe Wilder, and I believe she is here today. I'm going to ask you maybe to step to the podium microphone and correct me if I say this wrong, but I think the board voted last meeting to accept her application for reinstatement and passed a motion to require her to be here today to answer questions primarily about her peer review, and I believe she has been notified that we would be asking those questions. So just what I want to do now is just open things up. Teresa, we appreciate you being here, and we will I guess as a board begin to ask some questions and let you respond to those. So we'll open it up to the board to, I believe you have a thing packet in the information on your iPad that kind of gives the history of her violations and findings of fact and so forth, so you may want to open that up, but at this point we'll just open it up for questions.
Mr. Chairman, would you like me to go through the
I think it would be helpful just to go
overview?
through. Yeah.
That would be good, yes.
Okay, I'll just go through the timeline so we kind of know how we got to where we are today, and then you can ask her some questions. So in June of 2016, a complaint was opened for failure to comply with professional standards. In October of 16, this particular case was brought to the board via the legal report. During that meeting, the board authorized a civil penalty of $1,500. The findings of fact included the following. The respondent holds a Tennessee CPA firm permit. The respondent's firm permit expired 12/31/15 and was not renewed until April 3rd of 16. Respondent conducted and issued an audit while respondent's firm permit was expired. Respondent began work on the audit from the above paragraph 3 in this section before having an approved contract from the Tennessee Comptroller's Office. Respondent holds a Tennessee CPA license, number 12026. Respondent's CPA license expired on December 31st of 14 and was not renewed until February 24th of 15. On respondent's CPA license renewal form, the respondent answered yes to the question regarding renewal application being compliant for the 80 hours of CPE for the previous license period, 13 and 14. In respondent's answer to the peer review committee, respondent stated being deficient by 40.5 hours of CPE for the license renewal license period 13 and 14. On the October 26th consent order, October 26th, the consent order was sent to Ms. Wilder. The requirements of that consent order include the following. The respondent firm permit number 1593 was required to pay a civil penalty of $1,500 for failure to comply with professional standards. $1,000 for failure to comply with professional standards and $500 for issuing an audit on an expired firm permit. The same to be remitted with a signed copy of the order. The respondent was also required to undergo a mandatory CPE audit for the licensure periods 13 and 14 and 15 and 16 to ensure compliance with the minimum 80 hours of CPE per licensing period. The next two sections are just general language from the consent order stating that if these particular actions were not taken, that it would result in automatic revocation. On December 5th of 2016, a last chance letter was sent. Basically, that means that we had not received a signed consent order back from her, and she received a final notification that that was being required. On December 27th of 16, Ms. Wilder did sign the consent order but failed to send the civil penalty. Consent order stated that Ms. Wilder had 30 days to comply with the payment. Ms. Wilder placed a sticky note on the signed consent order which read, "I will be able to pay next week. I will forward check to the legal division of $1,500. On January of 27th, a demand letter was sent via certified mail explaining that the civil penalty was due and instructed Ms. Wilder's license and firm permit would be revoked if the civil penalty was not received on or before February 10th of 17. On February 13th, an email from the legal division to myself was sent advising me that as of February 13th, 2017, Ms. Wilder had not paid the penalty as required in the consent order. Ms. Page requested that Ms. Wilder's license and firm permit be revoked for failure to pay the civil penalty. On February 22nd, the revocation letter was sent via certified mail to Ms. Wilder. This letter informed Ms. Wilder that her license and permit had been revoked and that the civil penalty amount had been sent to a collection agency. On March 2nd, Ms. Wilder did pay the civil penalty of $1,500. On March 10th, Ms. Wilder began the process of reapplying for her license and permit. We have received a reinstatement application for both her individual and firm permit, and all of the CPE documents for the 13-14 and 15-16 period, and all of those meet the requirements. You also note in your documents you have her peer review documents. She still is in the middle of a peer review, some corrective action with a peer review. That concludes an overview of this situation.
A couple of quick questions. Wendy, one for you. So is the issue here really focused on the non-payment and then the automatic revocation? Is that really the big issue here?
Yeah,
the peer review piece is what it is, but it's not while we're here, right?
Correct.
Okay. Ms. Wilder, thank you for coming today. We appreciate your willingness to do that. A couple quick questions. So your permits are technically revoked right now. Have you done anything since they've been revoked?
Turn this on.
Yeah, we could just talk into
Everything is current right now. I have everything up to date as far as the license and hanging on that.
It's revoked right now, right?
But I mean, I did at the beginning of this year before that happened.
Have you been engaged in any business that you require a permit while it's been revoked?
Just compilations. I've not done anything that, as a matter of fact, I've taken the compilation I've done. I don't have CPA listed on there. I've taken off the CPA and I've just done it as because it's not a third party, it's just for management purposes only. I was afraid to use the CPA.
You can't issue compilations on a revoked permit.
They were just they were just for management. It was just a compilation.
Still considered a test in the state of Tennessee.
All that I've done is just a couple of those.
I'm familiar with the rules and regulations of the State Board of Accountancy.
From the time that this was going on, there was an issue with, I had a lot of clients leave, and there was all the construction during that time, and I was aware, but it was just like I was fighting just to survive, and having a hard time. And
I saw in 2 instances there was a late renewal. I guess that was, what were the 2 years there, Wendy? Expired on December 31, 14, renewed February 24th, 2015, and again it was done 12/31/15, was not renewed until April 3rd, 2016.
I was just, it's not that I was intending not to do it, it was just that I was just trying, and it would just, I'd think about it and I'd forget, and then I'd finally do it. And it was a weird situation during that time also. I was experiencing, and which is, I know this is a weird thing to think, but I was experiencing a situation and a physical thing called, they thought I had narcolepsy, which at that time I was literally falling asleep everywhere, in the vehicle, and it was like I wasn't functioning at the percent that I should have been functioning in. And this medical problem didn't get taken care of until May of this year, when they finally found out what was wrong. And I don't think that it was intentional, everything, but everything together, it was just like I couldn't, the reality of things just wasn't setting in, and so it was hurting the performance of my work. And what was wrong was I was stopping breathing 94 times an hour every night, and I wasn't functioning in oxygen, wouldn't get my brain, so they did the sleep test, and they put me on oxygen and everything when I sleep. So it's not like I was intending to do these things. It was almost like that I didn't have the functioning process.
Are you aware of the CPE requirements in the state
Yes,
of Tennessee?
I am.
Why are you deficient 40 and a half
The
hours?
deficient 40, at the time I was thinking that I had gotten the correct CPE to go through the other year. I was thinking 14, 15 instead of 13, 14, and that was just a mistake on my part.
And then what can you tell me about the responsiveness as it related to the consent order? I mean, we had sent a consent order to you in 1026, 12/5 you received a last chance, 12/27 you signed the consent letter 2 months later after we sent it.
That's why I'm telling you, during this time I was seeing this, and it was not fully registering, and I don't know how to explain it. I would see the letter, and then I would not be able to go through and do it. It was not intentional. As far as the 1,500, like I said, I lost a lot of clients. I'm a very small firm, and at that time, I just did not have the funds to pay it. And so I was hoping that I would get that when the tax season started, and some of that, worked through with the taxes.
Again, I'll highlight the fact that you've been issuing compilations on an expired permit.
Yeah, I just have the one M&M.
You aware that that's a violation of?
Yes. I was not aware that it was I thought that just a regular compilation, and like I said, it wasn't for any purposes, and there wasn't any, it was with no, it was just the actual balance sheet and income statement and none of the other, and it was just for his management and not third party. But as far as anything else, I've tried not to do anything else because I was afraid to do anything.
I think my concern is there's just been a pattern here. That's what concerns
like I
me.
said, it's not been the pattern until, this seriously was, and I can get doctors' things and what they said. It really was that I was not functioning as I should be, because I've been in the CPA for like 30 years. And I've not had, any trouble or anything. As far as the peer review, I think it's because I'm on my own and by myself. It's hard I do the steps, and it's like the documentation is my problem. The audit is performed, and I know the steps, and I follow. And as far as risk and all that stuff, and then it's just and this has been a real help to me with the peer review board requiring me to have it reviewed, which I'm doing, because that has really helped me, and I'm seeing improvements. And just the fact that you're there and somebody's telling you how to do it and helping you with that, having somebody to go back and forth on.
Are you conducting reviews, audits, compilations?
Mm-mm. I mean, I have audits that I did back in December before my license was revoked. But those are completely done. But as far as that's concerned, I want to do the audits. I want to do those, and I know that those are very important. And the documentation is where I was lax. And the reason the peer review, like I said, I had it bumped up 1 year because, like I said, I lost a lot of clients, and then I didn't have a lot of clients, so I had that done the next year, requested the next year. But having these, the review for the peer review and fulfilling that, if I had when I get my license back, that will be having somebody to review is a very important step for me, being as a single person. It really is. You need that, to review and be able to do that and see that the steps are done right, and it really helps me. And I think that when he had me do that before, license revoked, because those were done before then, that it really. There was improvement, and I don't think that I'd have a problem with another peer review because I know exactly now I'm following everything and doing every step. And I'm writing, with those I write down every step because having it reviewed really helps. Having somebody it really does. But like I said, I've had my license for 30 years. I went through this period where it was more of a physical, mental than it was an involuntary thing. It was something that I was having trouble doing. And up until just June, when they finally found what was wrong and what was happening with me, I can already tell. Literally, I was going home, sitting down, and I was out. I mean, I couldn't even do anything. I almost had several wrecks because I was falling asleep when I was driving. And now I don't do that. Everything's functioning. I'm getting the oxygen to my brain. I know that sounds silly, but it had more of an effect. my quality of life was really, really horrible. And I was not able to do a lot of, as far as the mental part of it. And now that's being corrected. If anybody's ever experienced that, they would know that it really has an effect on how you do. So this is where all this, that looks like I don't care and that's not it at all. I want to be a very good accountant. I want to follow all the rules. I want to try. I want to stress that that's very important to me. And this is what my livelihood is.
I have one question. Can you give us a little information about your practice? What does your practice look like? Like, let's assume if your license were reinstated, do you have like 20 reviews, 10 audits? I mean, tell us something about your work.
That's what I'm saying.
But do you do audit work and reviews and comps, or is your work primarily compilations, or what is it?
Most of my work, the biggest part of it is probably just income tax. I only have, in the past, I only had like prior years, maybe one, they're very small like audits, and one of those is no longer in existence. So I had a very small audit, 2 utility audits, and 1 construction audit that I had in prior years.
Are those utility audits where you report to the state of Tennessee?
Yes,
and
to
get
the Controller's Office, yes. And like I said, I didn't have any problems with those before. And then I just have taxes, and then I have that 1 compilation. Like I said, it's a very small, we're talking about $70,000 at the most income per year. So the audits are a good thing for me, to be able to make and support. And so, like I said, this big mess didn't start until I started having the physical, because you can look in the past. Now, peer reviews, like I said, it's really hard when you're by yourself and having those peer reviews. And he was always trying to help me and the people who did it. And I was trying to have people who really knew what to do, like Richard Hill and people that were very experienced. So I would do the best in those peer reviews. And I was striving to be good. And like I said, I know that I am good. It's just when I'm at my full mental or, whatever, the physical part. And I want to do that. Like I said, I did everything they said I did, but when I just, at that time, there was just a situation where some days I was talking to clients and falling asleep. That's, if I'm saying I couldn't even, and it was just a physical thing. And like I said, they did find out what was wrong and they put me on oxygen. So now I'm getting oxygen to my brain, as far as I can say, and I'm more able to deal with things. I know that sounds silly, but like I said, until you've experienced it, you don't know how that affects your work and the things that you do.
Ms. Wilder, are there still unresolved issues with regard to your latest peer review?
My peer review is that I have a pre-issue before, and I can't do anything right now because my license, so I can't, if I can't take any on to have the pre-issuance. The one, like I said, because of the ones that I had like in December, they're still waiting for pre-issue, but that's because I have to, my work papers have not been reviewed, but I didn't want to do that with this not having the license. It's sort of a circular thing. I can't do this until I do this, until I do this, and that's the only issues that are remaining.
Of your peer review, they're going to require you to have pre-issuance review.
Yes, and I have to pay for those, and that I welcome because I think that's helped me more than anything. But like I said, I know that when I'm in my full whatever I am now, that I am very capable of doing that and doing it well.
Are you aware of the fact that if you're not conducting a test work, you do not require a firm permit?
About what?
If you do not conduct a test work, you would not need a firm permit. Are you aware of that?
Yes, but see, that's, as small as I am, that's the way of surviving as far as.
Well, if you use the preparation standards instead of compilations, for example,
right,
that would not be a test.
Right, I know that. I know that the only reason the peer review happens is because of that. But I want to do that, and I want to do it good, and I want to do the peer review well. I want to be able to do that. I think that's an important thing for me to be able to do for myself.
Cindy, do we still do the ethics test as a requirement for the CPA exam?
Yes.
Does that? It's been a long time since I took that, but that does go over a lot of the rules and regulations of the state board, does it not?
It mainly goes into your code of conduct.
It is code.
It's not specific to the state of Tennessee, but it's important parts of the code of conduct, which we adopt many of those, if not most of them.
think some of that content that you're getting at, Trey, might be covered by the required ethics course that we would have from a CPE requirement standpoint.
I had additional CPE required by the peer review, and I did that. I made sure I did everything that they told me to do. I'm trying to finish, do everything that they told me to do. But like I said, I want to do the utility audits. I want to be able to do those correctly, but if that's, hindering me from, keeping my license or my firm, I mean, that's up to you. But like I said, I know I can do those in a good way. But like I said, with this physical problem, and I know that sounds, and it's not an excuse, it's just that I wasn't able to function as I should have functioned, and everything sort of went to the wayside. And me being stubborn, I was just saying that there was nothing wrong with me. So until the fact that they told me, literally they told me after I went in that I could have just died in my sleep anyway because of stopping breathing 94 times an hour. But that's why I was not functioning, not thinking in a way. So like when I would get letters and things, sometimes that would not even, it's not that it wouldn't register, it was just that I would see it and then like not even think about it. Do you see what I'm saying? It was just weird. I can't explain it.
When's the last time you took your Tennessee state-specific ethics?
I took it for the CPE that they required for this time. Yes.
I was there.
Everything was there. And like I said, I want to do everything correctly and right, and I know I'm capable of it. And I want to do things that are harder and more, I want to be peer reviewed. I want to get that perfect peer review. That's just, I want to do that.
You know which course she took?
I think it was PES, Professional Education Services was the vendor, so it was a self-study product. Is that correct, Ms.
It
Wilder?
was self-study, yes. It was self-study.
I would suggest that the current course offered by, that we're going to talk about later, that will be offered by the TSCPA would be a real help to her. I mean, I think it gets into some areas that I think touch on some of the violations here and so forth, but that, I don't know if that's what you're getting at, Trey, but to get just a really a better understanding of what a test work is and, some of those things, but having done a preview of that course, I think it would be very helpful to Ms. Wilder, so.
Recommend, I just want, like I said, I want to get better and be able to do it and be able to,
Did we talk about whether or not you've been enrolled in peer review in previous years?
I've been during the time that I was having the hard time.
I mean, even before that.
Yes, I've been in peer review since I was, I've been in peer review since, I started in 1989, and in 91, I've been in peer review since 91.
And were there any issues with previous peer reviews?
Just little findings, but nothing like, no, not that.
They were passed?
Yeah, I passed. I never failed or anything until there was passed with some issue, they gave me some recommendations, but I had not ever failed before. And like you told me, the reason for the failing, he said, was because I put it off for a year. It's an automatic fail. Because I postponed that for a year. Well, I didn't have the funds for the peer review, and they forwarded it to the next year. They allowed that. But when Richard Hill came in, he said, because you did that, it's an automatic fail, no matter what the issues.
You did have one fail because of that?
Just because, it was because it was put forward. And, it was going to be an automatic fail no matter what he said.
What year was that?
That's the last one. That's the reason we're doing the pre-issue and all that. That's the only one. Yeah, I didn't have any other fails.
Okay.
I always do okay on the peer reviews.
The current peer review looks like it's for the year ended 12/31/14.
I have another one next year.
And it looks like that Mr. Hill issued that report in July of 15, and she's undergoing some corrective action because that was a fail, correct?
Right. And that was he just, when he came in and just sat down, he said, well, just because you postponed it a year, it's an automatic fail. I can't do anything but that.
You said earlier that you had some trouble with the peer reviews, with the process, because as a
I just said it's hard for somebody. It's not that I had trouble, but I think it's really hard when you're by yourself and you're trying to get everything ready. I think, to me, having the reviews and having somebody else review it is a great thing for me. And I think I may continue that just because I want to know that everything's being done correctly. Even when they see, when they tell me that I can stop that, I think I'll still will probably have that done, because to me that's been the best help of anything I've ever done, because I don't have another CPA in the office with me, talk to and go off of. It's really good to have somebody else to review it and talk with them. It's been really helpful to me.
You didn't intend to indicate that difficulty led to any problems with passing peer review, but only that it was a burdensome task for you to go through, more so than if you had some help. Is that correct?
Well, no,
so you haven't had, what I heard earlier was, well, it's hard for me to have peer review because I'm a sole proprietor.
No, it's not hard for me. That's required. I just think it's better for me to have somebody to have it, to go back and forth on, during the course of the time in between the peer reviews.
It just sounded, when you said it, it sounded to me like you were saying you'd had some difficulties
no.
in complying with requests.
No.
I think the hard part as a sole proprietor, you have to get concurrent reviews the way the profession's going, and you can't do it very effectively if you're a sole proprietor.
But you have been successful in the past, and you feel like this is just
I'm not having trouble with peer reviews. Just like,
Okay,
yeah.
thank you.
But I just think that it's really hard when you're by yourself, and that's not an excuse. I should have made more effort, and I should have been perfect. And like I said, I feel good, everything, and I'm not blaming that on the issues. It was an issue with the health, but it's also, it's all my fault. I take that responsibility.
Ms. Wilder, I've got a quick question. This is Stephen Eldridge. I'm on the phone.
Yes.
I understand everybody has hard times and they go through things. The only thing I just can't get past right now is the fact that you knowingly performed the test work after your license was revoked, if I'm understanding that correctly. Is that true?
Okay, well, at the time, I did not realize until she actually, I think it was, I didn't know, I didn't get to my P.O. box, which is a little bit uptown, so I did not know at the time that the actual revoked license was really taking effect until she sent me I think you faxed it to me, somebody faxed me from the office. So anything that I had done up until that point, I did not realize, and then I didn't do anything. Like I said, I did the compilation, and after that,
I think that's what.
But you said earlier there was more than one, and then now you're saying it's just one.
No, I just have one client that I do a compilation for, and I said that there was just, I didn't mean that in the group, because like I said, I've tried to stop everything. I've not done anything as far as, I've just tried to I had taxes during that time, and I just concentrated on all those taxes. And I did corporate returns, and but I have a client called M&M Body Shop.
So when was this compilation done?
It was done, let's see, March. It would have been done
in 2017?
Yes, 2017.
And were you engaged to do the compilation, or did you did you actually do the report?
He brought in his work for me to do a compilation for him, and I just did a compilation for him.
Did you do a compilation report, and were you engaged to? Did you have an engagement letter?
No, not an engagement letter. No.
Okay, so you weren't engaged to do a compilation?
No.
And so you produced some financial statements
from his work? Yeah, just from his. Yeah.
And you included a compilation report with those financial statements?
I did. Yes, I did.
I'm asking because my understanding is that if you're not engaged to do a compilation report, then that's part of the requirements under SARS 21.
Well, no, I feel like you got to have an engagement letter, and you got to.
I just wanted to clarify.
That's a peer review issue right there.
Yeah.
You're going to get nailed for that.
Now, this is. Well, I didn't have an engagement letter, but I do. I do his compilation. Is that what you're asking?
Required to have an engagement letter.
Right. For the compilation.
To issue a compilation report.
Right.
That's a major peer review issue.
That's what you're engaged to do.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, if you're issuing a report, then you're required to have an engagement letter.
Yeah, and he has an engagement letter, and this was a new client, and he has an engagement letter that I just keep in his file, but This is what I'm saying is this is a monthly compilation thing that I do. This is the only one that I do.
Have an engagement letter or not have an engagement letter?
Engagement letter just stays in his file, in the write-up file that he
When was
brings.
the engagement letter issued?
He started. I have to look at the date that I started with him.
1 year, 2 years, 3
Oh,
years?
it's not been 2 years. He just started, I think, in like August of last year.
Okay. Did have an engagement letter.
August of last year.
Got a standing engagement letter that stands for a monthly process of.
Yeah, but I mean, it's someone that we have one that we can pick that you do it yearly or whatever. So that would just be in his file.
Producing a
yearly.
compilation report with these monthly financials.
There's a letter on top of it. Yes, a report.
Letter said, does it say we? Does
It just
say
says that I have compiled this information from. Yeah.
Sign that letter.
So if you produced the letter and you signed the letter, you were engaged. You know, whether you had an engagement.
Yeah, I mean, I have
That's
the
the
little.
whole
We do the
process.
little form at the beginning and put it in the file.
Yeah.
That lasts for a year, so it won't be issued again until August.
Stated at the beginning of this hearing that you were not aware that you needed to have a certificate in order to do a compilation, as long as it was used on.
No. I mean, I know that under the test things, you don't have to have a certificate to do the tax returns and all that stuff. Yeah, other than attestations or how you say. Yeah, I was aware of that. Yes.
Were you aware that what you were doing for this client needed a certificate or not?
I told at that time. I told you it's not an excuse, but I literally was not thinking fully in what I was thinking, and it wasn't an intentional thing.
I'm not trying to harp on this.
Yeah.
I just thought that you said, "Well, I didn't need one." I thought you said today.
Oh no, I didn't
need one.
No, I don't know why I said that, but I'm just saying that and that is about yeah. I understand that. But like I said, maybe I want to do these, but if that's the board decides that I'm not able to, that maybe I just need to do the tax returns and just the general accounting. But I would like to do the other, and I think I can prove that I would be very capable.
Wendy, what's the status of the TSCPA ethics course? I mean, they've got one now.
Right, and the one that you saw, the online version, I believe has been released. They're offering that. Of course, they have some live, presentations available across the state as well.
I'm going to suggest that as a condition of reinstatement, that course be taken. I'll throw it out to the group. I don't know how everybody else feels, but I feel like there's a lack of understanding of the rules and regulations, and that's concerning to me.
I will do whatever, and if you need to, and like I said, if they want to do I know the peer reviews do that next year, I would not care if it was done earlier or whatever y'all need to do, because like I said, I think that it's in a lot better shape than what it was.
I think we've got to wait until peer review. I mean, we don't have an issue with peer review issues at this point. I mean, until it becomes our issue. I'm more concerned about your understanding of the rules of regulations of this board, when things are due, when they're supposed to be paid, responding to board questions. That's been an issue, and I understand you've had some issues, but this has taken a lot of our staff time.
Like I said, I don't think that it would have been an issue otherwise, and it won't be an issue because, like I said, I'm functioning well.
I share Trey's feelings on this. I mean, I don't want to cut off the questions or anything here. I want to, if anybody's got further questions, but I really believe it would benefit you to take that current ethics course, and if we decide to reinstate here, I think we ought to make that a condition of reinstatement, Trey, and I don't know how we word that, but yes, I just asked.
I'd suggest another educational requirement would be, I think it's SARS 21 that goes over the requirements for reports and the different standards now for preparation, and reviews and compilation audits, all of those. There are a couple of good courses out there about that, and the rules have changed. And I think it would help you with putting together engagement letters for the services that you're actually providing, whether they are preparation versus an actual compilation engagement. So I think that should be a requirement.
Was any of your CPE that you just submitted to us in that area?
The ethics.
Not the software one.
A lot of it was with the auditing and preparing for the governmental audits that I do.
But any specifically on SARS 21?
Mm-mm.
Okay. I think that should be a requirement.
I agree with what you're saying, Janet. I think that's a good idea.
Mm-hmm. Are there any other questions or anything?
Wendy, you look like you're about to say something.
Did what, Troy?
I said Wendy looked like she was wanting to say something.
You do have one course submitted, 4 hours compilation and review. It says independence rules, so that may not be what
Would be
That's very important in
the
the audits. So I
suggestion
took that.
is. Also, you may have the option of whether you want it to be live or self-study, if that matters.
I have a tendency to do self-studies. If you would rather me do this.
Well, I mean, there's some good courses, self-study or live. And even the Tennessee Society of CPAs and their accounting updates have had recently some good courses that bring out some of the new SARS information.
So I'm willing to do whatever I need to do.
Yes, I would say, Ms. Wilder,
Totally willing.
first I thank you for coming, and I appreciate your willingness to be responsive to this request to appear before the board and to be very open and frank, about.
I just want you to know that I want to do better. I want to do the best I can because this is my profession. I want to be able to be proud of what I do. And I hate that all this situation happened, and I know that I feel honored that you just let me come and speak with you.
I think, it'll depend on what the board chooses to do here, but I think I would, if you're looking for a motion, Mr. Chairman, I would move to approve reinstatement conditioned on the completion of the current Tennessee state-specific ethics course and conditioned on taking an appropriate, let's say, 2-hour or more course related to SARS 21. I won't specify whether it's online or in person. I think if it's a valid course that we would accept, that would be appropriate. So I would offer that as a motion.
We have a motion on the floor. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion on this issue?
I thought we were going to include ethics as well. Ethics. Oh, okay, we did.
Kevin, would you mind repeating how many hours in compilation or SARS 21 that you?
A 2-hour or more course.
Okay, so 2 hours state-specific ethics and 2 hours SARS 21 comp and review.
You think that's sufficient? 2 hours?
There's some that are, I think 4 hours. I know the Tennessee Society at one of their meetings recently had a 4-hour session. Some of it was accounting update, but on other issues. But 4 hours is out there as well.
I think I would personally prefer 4 hours, but I'm not going to argue about it.
It's a complex topic. That statement takes some study.
Particularly since you do audits and reviews, not just compilations, so probably a 4-hour course would be more appropriate.
I'm not sure of Robert's Rules of Order here, but can we just amend your motion to, Kevin, would you like to amend that?
If you can, because you got a second, right?
And before Mr. Monroe amends his motion, legal would just like to remind you of the statute, the applicable statute here. It's Tennessee Code Annotated 62-1-111, and it says, after notice and hearing pursuant to 62-1-120, the board may revoke any license issued under 62-1-107, 62-1-108, or 62-1-109, or corresponding provisions of prior law, may suspend the license or refuse to renew the license for a period of no more than 5 years, may reprimand, censure, or limit the scope of practice of any licensee, may impose a civil penalty, or may place any licensee on probation, all with or without terms, conditions, and limitations for any one or more of the following offenses. And the offense which is in question here falls under there. So I just wanted to remind you of the options that the board has.
Okay.
We're okay doing what we're doing.
Yeah.
That's okay.
If we withdraw the motion that's been seconded, or we have to vote on it and say no?
Vote on that.
Oh, I think we can't amend the motion.
Okay.
It's been seconded. I don't know. Can you?
I think so, yeah. Yeah.
Aaron does not have a second. Did somebody second it?
Yeah.
Oh.
No, there was no second.
Unfortunately,
No.
the tape shows that
There was no second.
Let's let Kevin amend his motion, okay? And I'll get too hung up here and.
Okay.
Yeah, I would offer to amend the motion to indicate that the SARS 21 required course training requirement would be 4 or more hours. And
And we've got
Second that.
an amended motion on the floor. Is there a second to that motion?
No. Second.
Okay, now, is there any further discussion on the issue?
we would vote on the amendment first and then the main motion as amended if the amendment passes.
I would like to ask one question. Do you have a time frame in which you would, because it sounds like we would reinstate the license now and then she would have to get it, or she has to get it before she can be...
Ms. Wilder, would it be necessary for us to put a condition of time frame considering that your license is in suspension or is expired?
I will do
Or
it immediately.
revoked, sorry.
Whenever, I will do it immediately.
I think she's going to have incentive to get this done as fast as possible.
So she would send in the CPE and then we
Then you
would
could
reinstate the license?
reinstate the license.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so we need to vote on the amended motion?
The amendment to
The
go from
amendment.
2 hours to 4 hours.
Okay. We'll vote on the amendment. I guess we need to have a roll call vote again.
LaChurch.
Aye.
Gabe Roberts.
Aye.
Trey Watkins.
Aye.
Casey Stewart.
Aye.
Janet Booker Davis.
Aye.
Gay Moon.
Aye.
Larry Elmore.
Aye.
Judy Weatherby. Kevin Monroe.
Aye.
Stephen Eldridge.
All right.
Now we need to have a vote on the original motion. So we'll have another roll call vote unless there's further discussion. Okay, let's have a roll call vote.
Emma Church.
Aye.
Gabe Roberts.
Aye.
Trey Watkins.
Aye.
Casey Stewart.
Aye.
Janet Booker Davis.
Aye.
Gay Moon.
Aye.
Larry Elmore.
Aye.
Judy Weatherby. Kevin Monroe.
Aye.
Stephen Eldridge.
All right.
I think this concludes this matter, and I would just like to say thank you again, Ms. Wilder, for being here, and I, for one, appreciate your attitude about wanting to do better, because that's what this is all about, and I would hope you're able to do that. So,
Ms. Wilder, I would point out on the website, there is a law and rules book that we put out that is not very lengthy. I would suggest you might want to flip through that and make yourself a little more familiar with these rules and regulations.
So when I get this CP done, I send that in. What is the time period for the reinstatement?
It should be as fast as they can process it.
Yeah, I mean, 24 to 48 hours, it doesn't take that long.
Have down exactly what I need to do?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
You'll give that to me, or you email it, or
Yes, we can do that.
email it to me?
Absolutely.
So as soon as I get that in, then that will be processed. Okay.
We appreciate you coming, and it's not easy to come and admit
I've had a hard few
your
weeks.
shortcomings, and we just wish you the best.
Okay. And I appreciate you seeing me and letting me speak. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I need to ask one more thing. We did not officially reinstate her firm permit. Either add another motion for that. We have an individual and a firm that we are.
okay. We will entertain a motion for reinstatement of her firm permit. I would assume it would be conditioned on the same as the license, so who would like to make that motion? All right, we've got a motion.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion a second. Any discussion? Let's have another roll call vote.
Emma Church.
Aye.
Gabe Roberts.
Aye.
Trey Watkins.
Aye.
Casey Stewart.
Aye.
Janet Booker Davis.
Aye.
Gay Moon.
Aye.
Larry Elmore.
Aye.
Judy Weatherby. Kevin Monroe. Stephen Eldridge.
Aye.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Wilder. Okay.
Believe me, Mom, so I'll know exactly what to do.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, anything else, Wendy, we need to do on this issue? That should do it, shouldn't it?
That should do it. Thank you.
Okay. The next item on our agenda is the NASBA Fields of Study, and as I remember, we had a pretty robust discussion at the last meeting about that issue, and one of the things we did was suggest that we ask somebody from NASBA to come and maybe make some comments and help us better understand NASBA's approach on fields of study and so forth. So we have Jessica, is it Luttrell? She is the Associate Director in the CPE Registry, and so Wendy, do you want to make any comments before Jessica speaks?
Sure. Jessica works for NASBA. She is a CPA herself, and she is responsible for the registry, correct? Okay, and so I'm happy to have her here to maybe explain a little bit about the registry and how they come up with these fields of study, and then give you all a chance to ask questions when she's done. And so thank you, Jessica, for coming.
Well, and thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here. So in addition to overseeing the day-to-day operations of the National Registry of CPE Sponsors, which is a registry that approves providers of continuing education that comply with the CPE standards, or the Statement on Standards for Continuing Professional Education, that's jointly issued by NASBA and the AICPA. I also serve as the staff liaison to NASBA's CPE committee, and it's through the CPE committee that the CPE standards are maintained. So how the Fields of Study document was derived, a little history lesson. It came about in the late 1990s, early 2000s, and it really represents a compilation of the subject matters that are specifically included in the 55 jurisdictions' rules and laws. So the original documentation is just a compilation of all those subject matter areas. And as I mentioned, the fields of study are referred to in the standards, and that is what a provider that comes and applies to the National Registry, they use those fields of study on their certificates. So they use those when they're determining what classification a CPE program is. And so moving forward, in 2014, the CPE standards were being reviewed and evaluated for any changes or revisions, and at the same time, NASBA's CPE committee was charged with a program or a project really to promote more uniformity among the jurisdictions in rules around CPE and CPE compliance. And so the CPE committee actually established a CPE model rule task force, and it was comprised of 13 members. And the members included executive directors of state boards. It included some state board members. It included legal counsel to state boards. It included state CPA societies, an industry professional, an educator, a CPE provider, and firm compliance officers. So those were deemed as the stakeholders in CPE and CPE compliance. So this task force worked through and recently through the UAA committee put out a recommendation for a CPE model rule. And in that model rule proposal, there is a recommendation that 50% of total CPE for a reporting period be in technical fields of study. However, they also want to entertain the idea that CPAs today obviously are doing more than audit, accounting, and tax. They're doing things like forensic accounting and business valuation, and so wanted to expand the categories that would be considered technical. So it's through the task force that they actually took that original NASBA field of study document and made a baseline of determination of what they deemed to be technical and non-technical. And that is what resulted in this document, which I think you all have and probably looked at when you were considering changes. But there were some changes from that original 23 fields of study because it had been such a long time since that document had really been reviewed and considered. And there were some items in there that they really thought that category really wasn't relevant anymore. For example, there used to be a field of study for mathematics, and you really don't see that now in continuing education. So that field of study was eliminated. But then there were some new categories that was established. For example, information technology, which we all know technology is a big part of the profession today. So that category covers things like cybersecurity and data analytics and things like that obviously are out there today. And so it was through that task force and then through the CPE committee that the revisions to this fields of study document were made, as well as the baseline determination of what categories were deemed technical and non-technical. And so what I brought for you today, it's not very pretty, but it's an Excel spreadsheet. And in the far left corner is the original fields of study, which there were 23. And then the column next to it represents those fields of study in your current document. And it's a little bit of a mapping of what happened to any of the fields of study. For example, as I mentioned, there were a couple categories that the task force and committee felt like really weren't relevant today. The administrative practice, mathematics, social environment of business, those categories were eliminated. There were new categories added. The computer science and applications, the information technology was added. Communications and marketing used to be separate categories. They're now combined into one. There was a category that was specialized knowledge and applications. The new category is just dedicated for specialized knowledge, so it would be just related to specialized industries or services related to those industries. And then there was just a name change actually to them. There was a field of study called Management Advisory Services, and they took the word advisory out. But as far as the category and the things that would be classified under that category, that remains the same. And then in the far right column is just some notes on what happened with those different categories and maybe a little more explanation of decision process that was made there. So I am happy to entertain any questions. I'm the spokesperson. I didn't get a vote on this, but I am happy to try and explain to you, I think, what the thought process was in the various categories and answer any questions that you might have.
I have one question, and it's probably just me just not following. Just want to be sure I'm understanding. But if it's in the fields of study prior to September 1st, 2016, and then not in the field of study effective September 1st, does that mean it went away?
That's correct.
Okay, just want to be sure.
That's correct.
Okay.
The computer science one looks like it went away, but actually if you follow down the road, it was kind of renamed. So the kinds of topics that previously would have been computer science would still be included in this category that's now called computer software and applications.
What would be the difference between information technology and the... I was a little worried about my audit, if something was going to be technical or non-technical.
That's a great question. The computer software and applications, we often see a lot of courses that are tips on, I'm going to use examples, tips on how to use Excel, or even if it's a QuickBooks course, it might just be on how to actually use QuickBooks, but not the functionality of it in preparing financial statements. Those kinds of things, the how-tos is what really should be classified as computer software and applications. If you're taking a QuickBooks course that is really teaching you how to prepare those financial statements, we would consider that actually and recommend that it be classified under accounting, because you're actually preparing and learning about the preparation of the financial statements. Information technology is kind of, again, those topics that are more data management, cybersecurity, data analytics, data processing at the high level, like how it works and implementing those new systems, and education along that way.
Some of this computer software and application could be deemed technical.
Yes.
And, okay, all right.
Yes.
But not all of it.
I think we, I wanted to look before I... On the page, and unfortunately there's not a page number on the bottom of these, but the, I guess it would be about the third page on the back side, where computer software and applications non-technical, that description is. About the second big paragraph in there, it kind of explains the situation that there are software courses that focus on the application of the software in an accounting, audit, or tax practice. And it's just, again, reinforcing the fact that those could be categorized in a field of study as auditing, accounting, and tax in those situations, and try to give some examples there. But certainly it's not an all-inclusive list, but yes. Questions?
Any other questions while we have Jessica here? And Jessica, we thank you for being here this morning and for your comments. But good time to ask questions if you have them.
Stephen,
Go ahead.
I was just going to ask Stephen, I know he had some questions about, at the last meeting, about business management and organization, and I just want to make sure that he didn't have additional
Marketing as well. I think that was.
No, I don't. I mean, I think the issue I had was that, in my opinion, that, the CPA practice management has a lot of technical takeaways. I mean, I personally use a lot of our practices that we use for our firm, that sometimes even as guinea pigs, but I use those for clients, billing and collections and that sort of thing. So, my question becomes is, how is that not to be considered a technical subject?
I think my only response can be that was just the conclusion reached by the task force, that although very important topics, they were focusing on the technical aspects of rendering professional services. And of course, I understand you need to know how to bill your clients and things like that as part of administering your own practice, but I think the focus was on the actual rendering of professional services. And I do know that there are other jurisdictions that are very specific in not allowing courses related to practice management even count towards CPE.
I mean, that's the place that usually most of us get business running experience, is by running our own practice and doing that sort of thing. So, I mean, I guess I'm not going to sit and debate it, but I would argue that would be considered a technical subject, in my opinion. That was the issue that I had last board meeting.
I was just going to say, Jessica gave a very good presentation at the original meeting at NASBA just 2 weeks ago, I guess. I came away with a better understanding of the, what do we call these, 10-minute classes?
The nano learning programs.
Yeah, she gave a presentation of one of those, one or two of them, and showed it on video, and I kind of before had thought, well, what can you learn in 10 minutes? But she gave a good presentation, actually showed the exam, and this is something you could almost do on your lawnmower. Where you would, it was really good. I mean, seriously, you could do it in the car, and I don't know, it's kind of controversial with a lot of people right now, but what you showed at the meeting kind of opened my eyes to give it a better look or a different look.
Well, if it would benefit you all, I would love to.
Somebody's going to fall asleep on their lawnmower doing one of those and get run over.
Yeah.
I'm going to reference you.
There are some of us that are just not quite ready for nano learning yet. But
I wasn't either. I wasn't either. That's my point. After seeing it, I've got I've opened my mind a little bit on this.
I think
Larry, I do have a serious question. Is there a way that you could get us a sample to try one? Because I think it's a cool idea. I mean, I think my attention span seems to get shorter and shorter as I get older. But is there we could try one?
I was going to offer, if that would be beneficial to you, I'd be happy to come and actually present one. The one that I presented at the regional meetings was a course developed by PwC, and I did request permission to share that, and so I'm sure that they would be happy to allow me to share that with you as well. If that would be helpful to you. And
it really deepened my understanding as well. I think it would be very beneficial.
And we really, just to kind of...
I can stay awake for 10 minutes on any topic.
Just to sell it a little bit more. Just to sell the concept a little bit more. There's really two avenues that we see are the true value to nano learning. It's not that we would think, although I'm sure that there will be a CPA that would try to take all their CPE in these nano learning chunks, but we really see the true value as a just-in-time learning. So you remember something about a topic, but you're going out to have a client meeting and you just want to take a refresher. So we see that as a good just-in-time, or maybe it's a current issue that you want to get up to speed on very quickly. The other value add that we see for nano learning is reinforcement after a training event. So you've gone to a 2-day conference, and it's always a lot of information to take in those 2 days, and we see the value as reinforcement learning. So 2 days after you go home, somebody emails you a 10-minute, week later you get another one, and it's that reinforcement that helps the retention of the material. So that's where we really see the value add for nano learning. But I'd be happy to come back and
could we maybe schedule that for our next meeting?
October?
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, if you're willing to do that, and I hear the members would like to.
I'm right down the road, and I'm happy to do that, really. I would be.
All right. Yeah. Are there any other questions or that anybody has while we have Jessica here? Okay, thank you for being here, and we'll let you sit back down or leave if you'd like.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
We are down to the...
Casey, can we have some nano board meetings, maybe?
Some what, Stephen?
Some nano committee board meetings.
I don't think that's in the code anywhere in TCA that would permit us to do that. We've been building licensees that apparently out of step with the code, but we don't want to get too far out there. Would everyone like to take a break right now, and let's break for 10 minutes and come back? This seems to be a good place to break. Reconvene at 5 minutes after 10. I guess the next thing on our agenda is some reports on NASBA activities and committee reports, and I guess the first person listed there is Larry Elmore. Well, no, wait a minute. NASBA activities. No, the NASBA regional meeting. Yes, let's skip the line. So,
I can give a short
okay.
update, and I kind of covered it in the executive director's report, just some of the topics that we talked about or that were presented upon. There's just so much information at those regional meetings. I find them one of the best of NASBA's meetings. You are limited to the eastern U.S., so you have about half of folks across the country. Typically the eastern folks go to the eastern, the western go to the western. But it's just a couple of days of packed full meetings on various topics. There's an accreditation task force out there. We talked, and they are looking at opportunities to enhance the pipeline and improve the quality of education, and they have talked about some of the recommendations they've got, taking a very close look at the accreditation process. Should we be looking at program accreditation rather than just general accreditation, and the things that we should do going forward to keep up with what's going on in the profession? So we had that. Of course, we had an update from Ken Bishop, the CEO of NASBA. Data analytics and artificial intelligence was just a hot topic as what's coming down the pike and how quickly it's coming, and how we as regulators have to keep attuned to what's going on. So some of those
That's going to be a major issue.
I'm sorry?
That's a major issue.
Yes, and that's exactly how they delivered it at the meeting. So it's just in how quickly things are happening. Will blockchain reduce the need for auditors by 50%? Is that, and how do we respond to that?
I'm worried about the standards response.
Right.
That's another issue. That's
So, and the pace of change with standards or anything else is slower than what's happening with technology. So, some real issues and thoughts there. So, of course, we got legal updates, legislation updates. There's a tremendous amount of deregulation going on across the country right now. The climate is to reduce the need for licensure there are probably 6 groups, I think, that they reported on that are attempting to go into states and introduce legislation that reduces licensing requirements for various professions. I think they stated at the meeting that Tennessee was number 10 in the country for the number of professions that we regulate or that we require a license for and regulate. And so some of those groups are here in Tennessee attempting to bring that to light. Now, most of us could probably sit around and say, well, accountancy, no one would deregulate accountancy, but it actually, in Montana, there was legislation introduced as a result of these groups, and instead of analyzing which professions should be deregulated, they just randomly picked some. Accountancy happened to be one of them, got put in on this bill, and the legislature that agreed to sponsor it didn't actually look at it very closely until it came to a hearing, and then realized that probably this wasn't a good idea when his son came up to testify and was a CPA against the legislation. But it took a lot of time and effort to make sure the legislators understood that this is likely not a good thing. The thing that we have going for us as a profession is that we are regulated in all of the jurisdictions. Some of these licenses for other professions are not licensed in every state. So we have that going for us. We have a lot of uniformity going on, which is important. When every state does something different, then that causes concern as well. So we have a lot of things going for us, but it's definitely something to keep an eye on. Evolution of peer review administration is still being talked about a bit, but we have responded to those letters. We expect to hear something, I believe, early next year as to what that final outcome is going to look like, what kind of benchmarks the society will have to adhere to, and what kind of reporting we might see on the effectiveness of their program. We talked about any UAA changes, CPE model rules. Those model rules have been out for exposure. That comment period is up. I have reviewed those. We already have in place most of the items that were exposed in those model rules. I did not realize until recently that we are in the minority of states that already have that technical requirement in your CPE. So that was one of the things proposed in the model rules, to encourage states to require that half your CPE be in technical fields. So I think that covers my report on the regional meeting. Larry or
Also a good discussion on the CPA exam, changes going on with that. I wanted to put a plug in for those of you that, I know we're all busy and have schedules, but these regional meetings and the annual meeting too, I went to the annual meeting in Austin last year, and then this was my first regional meeting, the one in Newport, and they have at the regional meetings they have a one-day session for what they call new member training. And even though I'm entering my third year on the board, I think it was tremendously good for me, and I think it's good for anybody. No matter how long you've been on the board, it was a good day of training. Now, I'll tell you a few things they talked about. First of all, we got to meet a lot of the people at NASBA, and face-to-face meetings with Ken Bishop and Tom Kenny, Mr. Loden, who was the chair this year of NASBA, and to kind of just get to know people. And we also met, I think her name was Maria Caldwell, the Southeast Regional Director, and can talk, open up lines of communication with those folks. But some of the topics we had were, what is NASBA's mission? Talked about their strategic plan, some of the things that NASBA does for us and is available to do for boards all over the country. These newsletters they do, like that they do for many boards across the country, and opportunities they do for marketing and that kind of thing. They talked about committees you can be on, describe each committee that you can volunteer for. As Wendy said a while ago, they put a real marketing push on you to get more involved in NASBA, and getting involved in NASBA is really a good opportunity for all of us, I think, to serve even better as a board member. But I would encourage you to go. The only time they have these is at the regional meetings. They don't have this training at the annual meeting. But I will say one more thing, and I'll hush. They had a regional meeting there with all the executive directors from the states that were there, and each state took a turn around the room and talked about things going on in your state, and the executive directors talked. And it was eye-opening for us. We already knew Wendy was good, but when you sit and listen to some of the issues the other states are dealing with and how they're dealing with them compared to whether we're dealing with them and the issues, most of our presentation, or Wendy's, was things positive about the way we're doing things. I think it was Kentucky that was just a mess.
They're a mess.
I mean, they have so many issues they're dealing with. And we walked away, or I know all of us there did, with even a better appreciation for Wendy. Wendy is just by far and above the best ED in the country.
That I've
Isn't that what you told me to say, Wendy? But really, she is just, and I'll say this, and I don't remember which one said it, but after that meeting, people said to me, at least two people said, gosh, y'all have a great ED. And it makes you proud to come away with something like that.
Just a quick question on that. How many of those states, maybe you know this, how many states require a CPA be in that role?
I don't know. I'm guessing 50%.
50%?
That's a total guess. I really not positive.
It's good. I recommend it highly, and it was a good.
Actually, I think Janet Day and I went through it the prior year in Asheville at that meeting, and I was just coming on the board. I had just come on the board, and it was extremely beneficial. So if you all haven't done that, Kevin, I don't know if you. Oh, okay, you have not. Okay, I I think it's well worth
Yeah, even if
the
you're not
money,
new,
the
because-
budget, everything we have set aside for those
even
things.
if you're not brand new. One of the topics
yeah.
was how to be an effective board member, and there was a session on parliamentary procedures, which I think all of us could stand some of that. So
And I was Dan the spreadsheet. It was, or Dale.
Yeah.
Dale the spreadsheet or something.
anyway,
Anyway.
Thanks, Larry. And I haven't been to any of the regional meetings, but I think I made comments last time, the annual meeting. How knowledgeable he is of the major issues that are going out there that affect the whole profession, not just Tennessee. So, okay, any other comments on the regional meeting, Wendy, or we?
Do you want me to?
I think we just wanted to hear from maybe Larry or Judy on the audit committee and the ethics committee.
audit committee is still.
No.
Our next meeting is in September. LBMC is doing the audit again this year of NASBA, and our next meeting at a phone conference a month or so ago just to get to know. Actually, LBMC in attendance, and they will be the big meeting.
Does everyone know who LBMC is?
I've worked with
Kane and
Mhm.
Ethics Committee. Judy, you want any update there?
We are a very busy committee. I will say that we constantly are having phone calls. There are very few face-to-face. I think there are a lot of people that aren't located in Nashville on this committee. I know the head is Janet Gray, I think is her last name, and she's in Oklahoma. Very busy practice. So, but we are currently working. I forwarded to Wendy this morning a draft that we're working on to the International Ethics Standards Board for Accountants relating to professional skepticism and professional judgment. Comments from all of us are due before the end of this month, and then also I won't even try to the NOCLAR, which stands for, just in case you don't know, non-compliance with laws and regulations. And bottom line, the big issue here is we're concerned for the public interest because if someone involved in an audit or some process they're doing for a client and they see something they feel is unethical, it can be turned as a breach of confidentiality if they share that, and there's a lot of concern for protecting the public with regard to that from everyone on this committee. But there's also a lot of other concerns based on the standards, and basically I would point you to, as Larry brought up yesterday, there's a very well written article, a lot better than I can explain, on the June State Board report from NASBA. And I will say they're on these calls with the committee, and those people, they are very impressive in every area, even picking a band at the regional meetings. They're really down to everything very good. I mean,
Food's not bad either.
Food's great, accommodations are really great, but God bless you. Anyway, I think that that pretty much sums up the debate going on, and basically, if I'm not mistaken, and it may have been Jessica that was just with us, someone at the regional we're basically kicking some of these issues back to the AICPA. Did I get that right? I think that's isn't that what they tabled it? And,
yeah, I don't think they were in agreement.
yeah, it's just there's some really big issues there, and
About this a little bit at the last meeting, and there were several comments and concerns from board members.
yeah, and this I think this article in the board report really kind of gets down to the issues there and what's going on, and just better states it than I can ever explain it. But I will gladly, if anyone wants to, I can forward, the comments or the drafts that we're working on. I don't think that's, I'll double check, but I don't think that's confidential. Also, in the at the regional, we had the pleasure of meeting a lot of the students that are involved with ethics. There's always mention of this and different things from NASBA and the emails we get and whatnot. And these students that are currently enrolled in universities around the country, and they may not necessarily be in the accounting programs in these universities. Some are in HR. I mean, it's all over the place actually, and they are very impressive for the most part. And it's really good to see that NASBA, and I think it was it Ted Telford that started this whole ethics kind of program for students in universities. And
I'm not sure who started it.
Oh, okay. I thought it was him. But anyway, it's really, I think, it's really jumpstart. It's now, I think, having those people having those students in attendance and seeing what they're learning with regard to ethics overall, whether it be accounting or not. I think that this profession is making a huge impact with students all over the country.
Move on to the board committee reports, and now the license committee. Larry, I believe you're listed as first there.
Yes. The licensing committee yesterday had primarily one item on the agenda related to fictitious names, and it related to the ongoing project that we've had about potentially revising our rules related to that. Committee's conclusion at the end of our discussion was that we would take the approach of asking Wendy and her staff to work with legal on taking a more simplified approach to this and using the model rules that already exist, and potentially adding item number 4 of the rules that we had been working with as being potential amendments to our present rules, adding section 4 on that sheet, changing 4A to say does not harm or mislead the public, striking item B potentially, but in effect taking the model rules and amending or slightly adding some things to them, as opposed to having so many things in our rule that make it hard to understand exactly what it means. So the proposal from the committee is to kick it back to staff and legal and see what they can do for us on that. Vote back on that again.
There's a vote until we get the proposed.
That was the conclusion from our committee meeting.
Okay, is that it, Larry?
Yeah, that was it.
Any questions of Larry and his committee? Okay, we've got our laws and rules, and Trey.
Kind of the same boat as Mr. Elmore here. Basically, there was some issues related to the over 65 rules, and effectively, what we've come to the conclusion as a committee is that we need to pursue a law change, and so that law change would involve going to 2 classes of license status, being active and inactive, and dropping retired. And as a second part of that, if you're inactive and 65 or older, that there would be no fees charged on that license. So again, staff and legal, we're going to work to come up with some language on that. One thing I didn't think about, and I'm not sure how far we got into that yesterday, was the request for refund from the individual. You don't need any approval on that, right? Because the law or the rules were in place that said we were not charging the fee, right?
We don't need any action by the board. We have handled that internally.
Okay. So again, I think until, and then as a follow-up to that, we've probably missed the deadline to start that process with the state from a departmental standpoint, but we thought we might pursue going through the society and trying to find a sponsor and having them pursue it from that side so that it could be potentially handled during the next legislative session. So no action. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say there's a small chance that legal will be able to get it added onto the legislative proposal for this year. We just haven't been able to speak with our legislative team yet.
Gotcha. Okay. So it's a possibility it could come internally or it could come from the society. So.
Also, Trey, this particular change or clarification, I guess, does reduce our revenue by $68,000.
That's correct.
Okay.
If you see the documents on there, it does reflect that this will have an economic impact on the board. However, we tend to run surpluses on an annual basis anyways and have toyed around with what's going to ultimately happen with these surpluses. And so I feel better about giving it back to our elderly in our profession.
I think I'll probably put in the because I'm on this board, I have to remain active, so
That's
I
right.
would not be
Yes,
but the $68,000 is the 2-year
That's
total.
correct.
It would be half that on an annual basis.
Yeah.
Okay, and I guess
Stephen, did you have something you wanted to say?
I think I would have said instead of elderly, I would have said mature.
You're more politically correct than I am. But with that, that's the licensing report.
Okay.
Law and rules, I'm sorry.
Law and rules. The executive committee is next, and I will be presenting that report. And the first item that the committee talked about yesterday was the financial results for 2017 year-to-date. And Wendy, I think you're going to maybe present those in a little more detail than we were able to do in the meeting yesterday. So.
Yes, I will do so. All right, so the information you has is as of May 31st, so we are up against the fiscal year end of June 30, but year to date as of May 31st, we have gross revenues at $1,049,692. This is a little bit of an increase over budget as well as over the prior year, so we're doing well there. You will notice that I did break out our licensing revenue in my discussion of line items against our case revenue. So our case revenue is about $4,000 more than it was last year, so just to give you an indication there. And revenue for June typically runs between $9,000 and $10,000, just so you can get a sense of what we might see for this last month of the year. So when you take out the regulatory fee that's assessed per license, our net revenues are $960,000. We have total regular expenditures of $585,000. And our year-end cost backs to date are $267,000. So our total expenditures are at $853,000, and that leaves us with. I'm sorry, I'm reading the wrong column. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I'm reading the wrong column. I'm like, wait, this doesn't. I don't recall this being correct. I am so sorry. I will start back at our revenues are $1,064,000. Less the regulatory fee brings us at net revenues of $974,815, with regular expenditures at $519,000, plus our year-end cost backs to date at $215,000, give us total expenditures of $734,000, which gives our net revenue at $239,000. So we are higher than we were last year, and then we have been. So our regular expenditures per month running, I think last month we were at $77,000 or so. So, we're going to be putting over $100,000 into reserves this year. But the good news is, likely we can absorb the $68,000 without a problem and be able to move forward in that. Also to note, we did have, many months of the year that we were understaffed. So we are finally fully staffed. So we've definitely seen an expense, or we have not seen an expense in salaries and employee benefits that we will see going forward. So those are some of the things there.
Maybe some of that reduction, though, will be permanent through the elimination of the second investigator, right? I mean,
Yes,
yeah.
yes. Now, we did, I think the pay on this particular position, we did approve higher than what we had budgeted, but I don't think that it was too much over what we had budgeted, so. So are there any specific questions? And y'all like that net position? Does that give you any more information? That is something that it's a management tool that's provided to us monthly, and it rolls up our regular expenditures and then actually breaks out our cost backs a little bit in the expense section. So you see some administration cost backs, you see legal cost backs. Investigations we did, while we didn't have an investigator, we did send a few investigations to the pool investigators that didn't necessarily require a CPA, so we see some expenses there in March and April. And then we have minor expenses there from the customer service center.
Will you, and you may have already explained this, but if so, I missed it. The Edison expenditures, they seem to jump around some.
I think that is related to our difference in salary.
Okay.
Some months we haven't been fully staffed.
Okay.
Some months we were paying out Dawn's retirement. Some months, and now we've got so it is fluctuating more than it has in prior years from month to month. But I would expect that to be higher than what I would expect it now to be, around the $60,000, if not higher mark.
Other questions on the financial results for 2017? Then our committee met yesterday. I'd like to make a motion on behalf of the committee that we approve the financial results and Wendy's report as presented.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Let's have a roll call vote.
Pamela Church.
Aye.
Gabe Roberts.
Aye.
Trey Watkins.
Aye.
Casey Stewart.
Aye.
Janet Booker Davis.
Aye.
Gay Moon.
Aye.
Larry Elmore.
Aye.
Judy Weatherby.
Aye.
Kevin Monroe.
Aye.
Stephen Eldridge.
Okay, that's approved. I guess the next item on the agenda is the travel information, and there is a tab in your on your iPad. We can look at that. And Wendy, do you want to? That's very brief. Do you want to make any comments or?
I'll just reiterate what I discussed yesterday. This is Sherry's initial travel for the month of June. I did not have any travel expense for this particular time period. I did remove the mileage column that I have previously reported on, simply because we don't have a direct charge for mileage. So it's through the lease of the car.
We do not need a vote on this issue. It's really for information purposes. Any questions on the travel or comments or anything?
Mr. Chairman, can I ask a question on, this is going back to the P&L, but the fact that we're going to have refunds paid out and go back to June and record anything related to that?
Can you say that
Do we
again?
owe anybody the $60,000 at June 30 that we should record as a liability and take it out of revenue? Should it be back to June 30?
We are not. That's not the plan. We refunded the individual that requested a refund.
Okay, I've got my auditor hat on. Do we have a liability there?
Yeah.
That we should record?
Anyone that requests it, wouldn't we have to,
If they request it, I think the
So
intent
we're
is
only
we
going to
would
pay if
give
it's
it.
requested, is that what we're
That's
saying?
correct.
Okay, okay,
Okay.
I'm fine. So we can't really,
This board, are we comfortable with, I mean, I guess I feel like the right thing to do is, if we have not administered that properly, that we should proactively refund that. I thought
These are
that was
pretty
part
much
of
cash basis anyways, aren't they, these statements?
well, we're not presenting a balance sheet, so.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what you
You're
would
asking a
accrue. I
little
think
bit
if you
more than
paid
I
it, you
know.
would do it. And if you didn't, then you would, yeah.
Unless Judy wants to talk.
I'm just
I
uncomfortable
mean, this,
with that.
Judy, to give you an indication,
The
this,
bottom line is the state's not going to allow us to accrue the expense.
No, I'm not
because they
talking
don't
about the accrual. I'm talking about the people that have paid that, and they should not have paid that according to the current rules and regulations, and we have accepted the money. We, I think, should proactively identify those people and refund that money. I know that's a project, but I just
but
err on the
for
doing
what
right
time
thing.
period? I mean, this goes back, as far as I can tell, at least 10 years, if not longer.
You're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars, not 60.
Yeah.
That's not our plan, and I mean,
I brought it up yesterday, but I guess it wasn't understood what I was indicating. But I'll just,
We
and
did.
you do have a conflict here between the rule and law, and so,
Right,
you know,
and correct.
Yeah,
We do
I-
have a conflict.
yeah, and so, you know,
I
we're,
guess we could, yeah, anyone, I mean, of course, this is public, and if anyone were to request a refund, I think we would be
Society's not here
obligated
to
do
cover
that.
it either.
Right.
Nobody from the society's here covering it either, so put it in their bag.
Also, keep in mind that anybody who calls this office in the past who said, I am 65 and I'm not working any longer and I would, you know, how do I not pay fees anymore? We have advised them to complete an affidavit and we've moved them to a retired 65 category. So anyone who, you know, whether that was exactly the right administrative process, we will refine, but we have for anyone who has requested.
So they did not pay then?
Correct.
Okay.
Those folks
That's
do
good.
not pay.
Okay.
any further comments on the financial results or whatever? Okay, the next item on the agenda is the memorandum of understanding with the TSCPA regarding the state-specific ethics course and the, I guess, sponsor provider application that would be completed, I think, on an annual basis. But Wendy, do you want to, I guess, make some comments, kind of reiterating what we discussed in the committee meeting yesterday, and then I will make some motions after that.
Sure. You have two documents. You have the memorandum of understanding that's between the TSCPA and this board, and basically it sets out the responsibilities of each party. This board will create and approve a course outline for the state-specific ethics course, and we will provide that to the society by December 1st of each calendar year. Then they have agreed to use that outline to create content and create a course that they will then deliver to us for approval in the first quarter of each calendar year. They will make those documents available for purchase by other sponsors who wish to provide the course. So those sponsors will also need to complete the secondary sponsor provider application with us. And basically that application is saying that a CPA is going to lead the course. They agree to get the materials from the TSCPA. Let's see what else. It will be instructor-led. And they have to be pre-approved annually by the board to offer this course. And of course, they have to be a registered sponsor under our rules in order to be able to fill out this application.
Okay, the executive committee discussed both of these documents yesterday, and voted to recommend approval to the full board. So on behalf of the committee, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the memorandum of understanding between the TSCPA and the Tennessee Board of Accountancy regarding the state-specific ethics course, and I will make a separate motion regarding the sponsor approval form. So I'll make that as a motion on behalf of the committee. Got a motion and a second. Any discussion of the motion? Okay, let's have a roll call vote.
Pamela Church.
Aye.
Gabe Roberts.
Aye.
Trey Watkins.
Aye.
Casey Stewart.
Aye.
Janet Booker Davis.
Aye.
Gay Moon.
Aye.
Larry Elmore.
Aye.
Judy Weatherby.
Aye.
Kevin Monroe.
Aye.
Stephen Eldridge.
Okay, I will, again, on behalf of the executive committee, make a second motion to recommend to the full board approval of the 2018 Tennessee State-Specific Ethics Course Sponsor Provider Application, and I believe that everybody has seen a copy of that in your packet. So that's a motion.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, let's have a roll call vote.
Pamela Church.
Aye.
Gabe Roberts.
Aye.
Trey Watkins.
Aye.
Casey Stewart. Janet Booker Davis.
Aye.
Gay Moon.
Aye.
Larry Elmore.
Aye.
Judy Weatherby.
Aye.
Kevin Monroe.
Aye.
Stephen Eldridge.
Okay, the next item that the executive committee discussed, and again, I think we had a pretty quick but robust discussion of this with all board members in attendance, but it's the use of titles, the exposure draft that everybody was provided, and the board and committee basically felt that we should provide a response to NASBA, to the committee that's dealing with this, basically expressing all the same concerns that were in the Nevada response letter. And Wendy, have you got any comments? I mean, you had the benefit of being at the regional meeting, but you got any other comments to add to that at this time?
I don't think so. I think mainly what I would like to know is typically when we do something like this, I draft a letter, we have another board meeting in order for you all to review that letter. So we don't have that opportunity this time. So is it something that...
Can the chairman review that letter just by email?
I think so. I think legal has advised me that that would be appropriate, as long as, I just want to make sure you all are aware of that, if that's the direction we'd like to take.
They could give authority to the chairman to make the...
Give authority to the chairman to approve the final letter.
So we would need a motion to do that.
Yeah.
So on behalf of the executive committee, let me make a motion that we authorize or that we provide a letter to the NASBA committee dealing with this that expresses our concerns along the lines of the concerns expressed in the Nevada response letter, and that we ask Wendy maybe to do the initial draft of that, and that it be, I guess, edited and signed by our new chairman of this committee, because we have to respond before our next meeting. So I'll make that in the form of a motion. Okay, our motion is second. Is there any further discussion on this? Okay, let's have a roll call vote on that.
Aye.
Gabe Roberts.
Aye.
Trey Watkins.
Aye.
Casey Stewart.
Aye.
Janet Booker Davis.
Aye.
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 Kevin Monroe. Stephen Eldridge.
Yeah, I believe that concludes the business of the executive committee, and our next committee is the enforcement committee, and I'll turn that over to Gabe Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We had an epic meeting yesterday, and all of you were there. I apologize. That's probably on the chair. A failure of leadership there. we had a great, a good, robust conversation, obviously. We did several things. The first is that we reviewed the status of open complaints. This is a document that is routinely reviewed, prepared by the staff and reviewed with us. Just underscores the hard work that our attorney and investigator staff is doing, and we appreciate that very much, and appreciate the assistance that the Department of Commerce and Insurance is giving us regarding that. No motion or anything needed regarding that. The second thing, a few meetings ago, our committee, and I think the board generally, was interested in trying to make sure that we were consistent in how we assessed penalties and figured that out on the legal report. I think our view is that we are a regulator and we need to be consistent. I think that's in the best interest of the folks who are regulating, the public generally, and I think also for us. And so our team continues to amaze us in terms of just outstanding work on the penalty matrix that has been provided, and we really appreciate that. We're going to continue to see some iterations as a continuous improvement project, but I think that's a good thing. So the next couple that we get will probably vary a little bit in design, but I think it all is going to be a really good thing. And we had the conversation that this is a guidance document. It doesn't restrict our staff or us in being able to actually assess penalties. It's just something to help us make wise decisions. So the meat of what we talked about then was the third and final thing on our committee agenda, which is the legal report. You have a legal report that has been revised since the conversation yesterday that was in front of you today. Note that through our discussions, there were 14 total items on the report. Our committee opted to amend 3 of those recommendations. The numbers we amended were numbers 7, 9, and 10. You'll note on the report that you got today that those amendments show up in blue text, which is very helpful. Again, I appreciate that to our staff for doing that for us. We also, our committee on number 12, decided to uphold the original penalty that we had assessed, I believe, or authorized last meeting or 2 meetings ago. So that also shows up in blue text. Everybody was here for the conversations and the discussion, so not going to go through these individually, but on behalf of the committee, I would make a motion to this board that we accept the legal report and all the recommendations for all 14 of those cases as presented to you today as amended.
A motion, is there a second?
Second.
Motion is second. Is there any further discussion? Let's proceed to a roll call vote.
Pamela Church.
Aye.
Gabe Roberts.
Aye.
Trey Watkins.
Aye.
Casey Stewart.
Aye.
Janet Booker Davis.
Aye.
Gay Moon.
Aye.
Larry Elmore.
Aye.
Evan Monroe.
Aye.
Stephen Eldridge.
Aye.
All right, Mr. Chairman, two more quick things and we'll be done. We got in reviewing the legal report, there was a discussion that came up with legal counsel regarding issues that potential loophole where if someone, if we as the committee recommend to this board and this board agrees that we should penalize or do something against the licensure of one of the folks we regulate, if somehow between the time we make that decision and potentially a year and a half later when that actually get to a formal hearing, if the person's license expires, there's good reason and good policy at the department level that may prohibit us from actually moving forward with a formal hearing. And so for obviously at the margin, but there could be opportunities for people to be incentivized not to respond depending on the status and then, you know, where they are in their career, et cetera. And so what we asked was for legal counsel to go back and look, given that being the policy of the State Department, is there a way that complements that, a policy that we could create or adopt that complements that and certainly doesn't go against it, to be able to be quicker in terms of initiating proceedings, whether it's the notice of hearing process or any other way that legal counsel can figure out, and they would look at that. The idea being that we preserve our action. So we take an action as a board, and regardless of how long it may take to get to a hearing, that action is preserved, and our ability to do that is preserved. Again, not with a punitive nature or purpose in mind, but more from a protection of the public, so that someone, if they should have a licensure action against them, but for technicality reasons don't have that, at least it goes on the record and individuals can see that. So we hope to get a report on that at the next meeting from legal counsel.
You don't need a motion or anything on that.
No.
That's just getting into the record the discussion that was held yesterday, and certainly we would ask legal counsel to do that. So,
And then the last thing is I just want on the record again to say that we continue to get outstanding work from our legal staff all the way up to Mr. Glandorf, and we appreciate that, and thanks for all their hard work and quick response on what we're doing. And that concludes the report of the Enforcement Committee.
okay, thank you, Gabe. The next item on the agenda is a legislative update, and Wendy, are you going to do that, or legal counsel, or?
We don't have a particular legislative update. Something I had wanted Liz to do yesterday was just give you an update on, we have 2 rules out there that we are waiting, that are going through the process. So I just wanted her to give an update on those.
The rules that Wendy is referring to were the rules that the board voted on at previous meetings. The first one being the peer review updated rules, and those have been sent externally from our department to the Attorney General for their review, and then they will go on to the Governor's office for review after that. The other rules, the CPE rule edits that we made and some changes to the definitions section, those rules are still internal, and they are with our general counsel right now, and then they'll be routed up to the commissioner level, and then once we get the commissioner approval, they'll be sent on to the attorney general level where the peer review rules are right now.
Thank you for that update. Anything else on legislative matters? Okay. Is there any old business to come before the board? Okay, then let's move on to new business, and the first item on the agenda there is election of officers for the coming year, and for the record, we need to elect a new chairman, a new vice chairman, and a new secretary. So
I'd like to submit a slate, if I may. I'd like to nominate Mr. Casey as chair, Mr. Eldridge as vice chair, and Mrs. Moon as secretary.
nomination, I'm assuming that those individuals are willing to serve in those capacities. I am willing to serve as chairman, certainly. Larry, I assume you would be willing to serve as vice.
Hard to say, I don't think my name was called.
Steve, would you are willing to serve as vice chairman?
Yes, unless you're trying to lobby against me.
What'd you say?
Unless you're trying to lobby against him.
No, I would never do that, Steve.
This is my first election of officers, so I'm not really sure how it all works. But is it? I mean, do you normally present like a slate of like Trey just did, or do you? I don't know.
However you want, I think.
If you would prefer to do it one position at a time, we can do that. It's been different every year I've been on here,
okay.
Yeah, and so we can do whatever the board's pleasure is. It's fine.
Yeah, I just I wanted to nominate Kevin Monroe in a position on that executive in the one of the positions. He seems to really know the Robert's rules a lot better than anybody else that I've noticed on here on this board, and I think he brings a wealth of knowledge, and I've just really appreciated his input and noticed the depth of understanding and the compassion he has and the professionalism within the profession. I'm open to what position that would be. I would just like to see him be in the leadership, one of the leadership roles.
Yeah, Mrs. Kevin, thank you very much for your kind remarks. I'm actually in support of the slate that Trey's proposed, but I very much appreciate your kind thoughts.
Okay.
Do we hear a brief description of what the
Each
duties are?
Yeah.
Or what the duties of each office are?
I don't know that I have that information.
Statutory.
Yes, they evolve. Is that the idea?
The big thing, obviously, the chairman runs the
Meetings.
and works with staff. And then secretary And basically, from my time served, the secretary and chairman sign the certificates.
And you
Secretary
sign the minutes
signs.
after they're approved by the.
Sort of an oversight on
And they're
for our
on,
people,
and they're on
I guess.
exact,
Uh-huh.
and those types of things. But I've never actually seen a formal definition of any of those.
I have not
titles.
either. And the vice chair would sit in for the chair, should the chair not be
Service
available.
Nomination, Kevin, thanks for your comments there. Unless there are other nominations, I would suggest we vote on it as a slate. Does anyone else have other nominations? Okay, then let's move to, go ahead, Wendy.
Second, or was that in the form of a motion?
It hasn't been yet. We're
Okay.
taking nominations.
Okay.
Do we need a second to take?
Well, I'll have to make the motion,
Okay,
I guess.
we'll need a second.
I'll make the motion because I'm only nominated, right? I make a motion that Mr. Casey, Mr. Eldridge, Mrs. Moon be elected as a slate for similar order chair, vice chair, and secretary.
Okay, do we have a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Okay, any further discussion? Then let's have our final roll call vote of the day.
Pamela Church.
Aye.
Gabe Roberts.
Aye.
Trey Watkins.
Aye.
Casey Stewart.
Aye.
Janet Booker Davis.
Aye.
Gay Moon.
Aye.
Larry Elmore.
Aye.
Heather Keith. Kevin Monroe.
Aye.
Stephen Eldridge.
Last item is the formation of board committees, and if I remember right, what we did last year is just ask each board member that might be interested in continuing to serve on the committee you're on or some other committee to provide that information to Wendy, and then allow the chairman time to process that information and feedback, and then make committee appointments from that. And that's what I would prefer to do as the new chairman, if that's agreeable with the whole board. Anybody object to that? Then how's the best way to get that information? You went by email or just?
I think if everybody could email me your top choice of committee service, and I guess whether you're interested in chairing that committee or not, just so that Casey's aware of your interest level when reviewing that information.
Well, last year I was on the enforcement committee and really would have continued on that committee, but there was so much interest on the part of people, I just stepped aside because I think that's a very good committee to serve on, and we'd certainly like to know what your thoughts are and wishes, what you're interested in before we make those committee appointments. Abe has done an outstanding job on that committee until yesterday.
I was just about to say, I think the reason why you said it's a great committee is the chairmanship this past year.
Okay, is there anything else we need to do today? If not, I'll entertain a motion that we adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
And we don't need a roll call vote on that. Let's adjourn.
That's good. At least we worked out all the conversation yesterday.
Thank you, Stephen.
Average by 2 times.
Bye-bye.